Hey everybody, Shane here, Shoebox Legends. Thanks for tuning in for another installment in my Warlords collection that I am assembling and sharing here on the channel. A very basic concept that I came up with last year, but it's proving to be a ton of fun. And the idea is I want to collect a card to represent Major League Baseball's war leader for every season 1950 to present. And in the first installment, which I will link to below if I remember it, covered 4 great offensive seasons: Willie Mays' 1965 campaign, Mike Schmidt, who was your Major League Baseball war leader in '77. Then we also talked about Barry Bonds and his dominating 1993 season. And then finally, Alex Bregman, who paced the league in WAR in 2019. So if you're interested in hearing any more about those seasons or those cards, certainly check the link below. But in today's episode, we are going to flip the diamond on its head and go to the other side of the game, the defensive side. And we're going to look at 3 amazing pitching seasons and a card to represent each one of them. And that's one of the great things. I know WAR is not a perfect stat, but it's a really good attempt to normalize and standardize statistics, not only across eras, but across positions as well. And while offensive players certainly dominate this category more frequently, there have been plenty of occasions, as we're going to get to as this series unwinds, where a pitcher had a campaign that was so special that they ended up pacing the league in this wins above replacement statistic. And the first of the 3 that we're going to look at today is a case of a player that I would not have predicted would have been on this list. And that's one of the things that's been really fun about this project in the early going. You expect to see your guys like Willie Mays, Mickey Mantle, etc., all over this list, and that is the case. But every once in a while, somebody kind of sneaks in who you wouldn't expect with a season that was so incredible that they end up pacing the league in WAR. And that's what happened in 1998 with none other than Kevin Brown. And this is a beautiful 1998 Bowman's Best refractor, back when shiny cards were much, much better than they are today even. And he is a player who had a really solid year in 1998, but that you probably wouldn't predict you'd find here. He went 18-7 for a really, really good first place team that year that won more than 90 games. He had a minuscule 2.38 ERA, and that's even more impressive when you consider the era that this season took place in. I mean, this was the juice era. This was the very year that McGwire and Bonds were setting new home run record marks, the likes of which we had never seen. And power numbers were up across baseball. And despite that, Kevin Brown managed just a 2.38 ERA. And even more impressive than that, he was an innings eater. He made 35 starts, 250 plus innings pitched, which certainly all contribute to him being on this list for this year. And in all that time on the mound, in a season dominated by offense and home runs, he gave up only 8 home runs. And that gave him the lowest home runs per 9-inning total of any pitcher in the league in 1998. He finished 3rd in Cy Young voting, and it's kind of the story of his career in a way. This guy was solid for so long, consistent, reliable, dependable, but he never won any major hardware. And maybe that's one of the reasons, just aside from him being a pitcher in general, that you don't hear him talked about all that often, despite the fact that his career Fangraphs WAR is 76.5. His 1998 season alone, he registered a 10.0 Fangraphs WAR. And so he is your representative for the 1998 season, and a great example that this does not need to be an expensive collection. And it's just really, really cool to find a way to fit a Kevin Brown card, right alongside a Willie Mays card in the same collection with the same theme. So Kevin Brown, your 1998 Warlord. I believe these are the first serial numbered refractors as well. So kind of a cool little addition for that card. And with that one out of the way, we're going to go back almost 30 years now to the late 1960s. And we're going to get into a little bit of vintage to finish this off. And we're going to talk about the 1969 season in which Bob Gibson was your war leader. He registered a 9.8 Fangraphs WAR in 1969, slightly just a degree lower than Kevin Brown in his 1998 campaign. He reached the 20-win plateau, playing for a team that finished 4th in the NL East, so that's impressive. His ERA was even lower than Kevin Brown's, in 98. He registered a 2.18, which is just microscopic. It was the second best ERA of his career after that famed 1968 season with the raised mound that everybody talks about. Outside of that, this was his best season from an ERA perspective. He pitched 28 complete games to lead the league. And amazingly, he won the Cy Young Award the year before this and the year after this, but did not win the Cy Young in 1969. Even though he had one strikeout more than the previous season where he was the Cy Young Award winner. A lot of competition, of course, in the late 60s. Some great pitchers, but yeah, he may not have won the Cy Young, but he absolutely won the Warlord competition in 1969. And for his card, I just went with the standard 1969 Topps issue. Of course, I could get into some oddballs and other things, but I just really love the look of this card, the vibrant color. It took me a while to find one that was really, really well centered. Might not be perfect, but it's pretty visually appealing and certainly meets my eyeball test. And just a gorgeous, gorgeous Bob Gibson card there. So your 1969 Warlord, Bob Gibson. And let's put these pictures up here after all and get them a little bit of love. With apologies to Mike Schmidt and Willie Mays. We're going to get Kevin Brown and Bob Gibson a little bit of screen time here as we cover the third, and in my opinion, most interesting of today's trio, and that is going to be the 1972 season. Now, a lot of you already know this, I'm sure, but just bear with me because in my mind, this is one of the most impressive pitching seasons that we have ever seen or will ever see in Major League Baseball. And I'm talking, of course, about Steve Carlton. He was, prior to this, pitching for the Cardinals. 1972 was his first season with the Phillies, and he had a season for the ages. So let's look at the card first, and then I'll get into some of the statistics. This is an incredible card, and this one will never be replaced for the year 1972 in this collection. I was recently able to find the 1972 Topps issue in 2016 buyback, stamped 1-of-1 format, that is also autographed by the man himself. This is literally the perfect 1972 card for my collection in general, and certainly for this Warlords collection. The only one that exists, great signature. And to me, it's ultimately, as cool as it is because of the season that Carlton had in 1972. And this is obviously well documented, but he had 27 wins. And I don't know when we will see that again, if ever, which in and of itself would be insanely impressive, but it's 10 times more impressive when you consider that he was on a terrible team back in 1972. And with apologies to any Phillies fans out there, they just didn't have a good year by any definition. The team won only 59 games, yet Steve Carlton had 27 wins. He was responsible for nearly 50% of his overall team's wins in 1972. He had a 1.97 ERA, a sub-2 ERA. He made 41 starts and 30 complete games in 1972. He had more complete games in 72 than most pitchers really just start in general nowadays. Had over 300 strikeouts, and he blew away the innings pitched by, like, say, Kevin Brown from 1998. Steve Carlton in 1972 pitched 346 innings. And all of the stats that I just gave you, his ERA, his wins, his number of starts, his number of complete games, his number of strikeouts, and his number of innings pitched, they all led the league, and they were all career highs for him. So 1972, unquestionably his single best season that he ever had on the mound. There's just no doubt about it. And easily, as I said, one of the most dominant pitching seasons in the history of baseball. He deservedly won his first of what would become 4 Cy Young Awards. And yeah, I'm just over the moon that this card surfaced recently and that I was able to win it at a very, very reasonable price point. It absolutely reinvigorated my energy for this project and for getting back to this here in the year 2025. And I figured it would be a great opportunity to get it shown today and to pair it up with 2 other amazing seasons from the mound. And so that completes the trio for today of Warlords, Kevin Brown from 1998, Bob Gibson from 1969, and the great Steve Carlton with one of the most impressive pitching seasons ever back in 1972. Plenty more to come on this project. I've now covered only 7 years out of 75 plus that will be part of this collection. So we've barely scratched the surface. I do have some more cards I'm pulling, so I'll be ready to go with another installment soon. But for now, I certainly appreciate it if you made it to the end of this one. Would love to hear from you in the comments below. And as you know, I'll be back soon with some more content. But until then, just enjoy the hobby, everybody. Take care.